He installed cameras to protect his son. They taught him the wrong lesson. Adrian Montreux had spent most of his life believing control was the same thing as care. That belief followed him home to Angus Drive in Shaughnessy, into a house wired with cameras, alerts, and quiet rules designed around one child. Noah, his only son, born blind, a child who had never relied on sight to understand the world. Elena Kofi was the woman who spent the most time with him, not because she was hired to do more, but because Noah trusted her voice. That afternoon, Adrian checked the cameras the way he always did, and that's when he saw it. Noah on the floor, a metal pot in his hands, a sharp, echoing sound filling the room. Elena didn't stop him. She watched. Adrian didn't wait for an explanation. Most people think this is the moment a line gets crossed. It isn't. It's the moment someone mistakes fear for protection, and almost takes away the only way a child knows where he is. Before we continue, please like, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now let's dive back into the story. Adrian Montreux stood in the surveillance room, eyes fixed on the wall of monitors, displaying every corner of his Angus Drive estate. The mansion in Shaughnessy had always been fortress-like, but after hiring Elena Kofi 3 months ago, he'd doubled the cameras. 24 feeds now. Every hallway, every room where Noah spent time. He told himself it was protection. His son was blind from birth, vulnerable, precious, irreplaceable. But deep down, Adrian knew he was watching because he didn't trust anyone. Not with Noah. Not after what happened with the last caregiver. On screen 7, Noah moved through the sunlit corridor leading to the garden room. He was alone. His small hands traced the wall, fingers reading the texture of wallpaper like Braille. His steps were uncertain but deliberate. Adrian leaned forward, jaw tight. Why isn't she stopping him? Mark, the head of security, stood beside him, arms crossed. She's close, just not intervening. The camera angle shifted. There she was, Selena, 10 feet behind Noah, her posture relaxed but attentive. She didn't reach for him, didn't call out. She simply followed, watching, waiting. Noah paused, his head tilted, listening. Adrian recognized that stance. His son was mapping the room by sound. The hum of the air purifier, the distant rush of water from a fountain outside, the creak of the floorboard beneath his own weight. Then Noah stepped forward again, confident this time. Adrian's chest tightened. What is she doing? He could fall. He could. Sir, Mark interrupted carefully. He's navigating. On his own. That's not her job. Her job is to keep him safe. But even as Adrian said it, something gnawed at him. Noah had never moved like this before. Never with that kind of certainty. Every previous caregiver had kept him tethered, hand-holding, voice-guiding, bubble-wrapping his world until he barely moved at all. Elena was different, and Adrian didn't know if that terrified him or intrigued him. This is the moment most people decide they already know what they're seeing. He muttered to himself, fingers drumming the desk. He could fire her now. Right now, based on gut instinct and fear. But something stopped him. Adrian reached for the controls and rewound the footage again. He needed to see it one more time. Needed to understand what she was really doing with his son. The metallic clang echoed through the monitor speakers, sharp, rhythmic, relentless. Adrian flinched at the sound. On screen 4, Noah sat cross-legged on the kitchen floor. A large metal pot, turned upside down in front of him. His small palms struck the base repeatedly, each hit sending a hollow ring bouncing off the marble walls. Bang, bang, bang. Why is he banging that? Adrian's voice rose, cutting through the quiet surveillance room. Mark shifted uncomfortably. It looks unsafe. Adrian watched as Noah's face scrunched in concentration, his head tilting with each strike, as if chasing something invisible in the air. The pot tipped slightly. Noah's hand shot out, steadying it, then resumed the rhythm. Faster now. Bang, bang, bang. Elena stood 5 feet away, leaning against the counter, arms folded. She wasn't smiling, wasn't frowning, just observing, like a scientist watching an experiment unfold. She's letting him. Adrian's hands clenched into fists, That's a metal pot. The edges are sharp. If he tips it over, if he hits his hand wrong. Sir, maybe she's. Maybe nothing. Adrian's pulse hammered in his ears, matching the beat of Noah's strikes. This wasn't play. This was chaos. This was exactly the kind of reckless freedom that led to accidents, to injuries, to the kind of call no parent ever wanted to receive. On screen, Noah paused. He brought his face close to the pot, lips moving silently. Then he tapped it again, once, twice, and listened. The echo filled the room like a living thing. Elena knelt down beside him now, but still didn't touch, didn't stop him. Her expression was unreadable, calm in a way that made Adrian's blood boil. If you stop listening here, you'll only hear noise, he whispered to himself, the words bitter on his tongue. But all he could hear was danger. All he could see was his son, vulnerable and exposed, being guided by a woman who clearly didn't understand what was at stake. Noah raised the pot higher, preparing to strike it harder. That was enough. Adrian stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. Mark turned, startled. Sir, Adrian was already moving toward the door, his footsteps heavy with purpose. I'm ending this. Now. He headed upstairs, jaw set, heart pounding, ready to do what he should have done the moment he saw her let Noah wander alone. Adrian burst through the kitchen door, his polished shoes striking the marble like gunshots. Noah's hand froze midair, the pot still ringing from the last strike. Elena straightened, but didn't move away from the boy. Are you trying to get him hurt? Adrian's voice filled the room, sharp and accusing. He crossed the distance in 3 strides and yanked the pot from Noah's reach. The silence that followed was suffocating. Noah's hands trembled in the empty air where the pot had been. His head swiveled left, then right, searching. His breath quickened. Elena's expression remained steady, but her eyes followed Noah's every movement. He wasn't playing, she said quietly. Then what was he doing? Adrian held the pot against his chest like evidence in a trial, his knuckles white, listening. The word hung between them. Adrian stared at her, incredulous. Listening. He was banging a piece of metal like a child learning to see. Elena interrupted, her voice calm but firm. That's what echolocation is, Mr. Montreux. He was mapping the room, the walls, the ceiling height, the distance between objects. Adrian's jaw tightened. Don't lecture me about my son. I'm not lecturing. I'm telling you what you interrupted. Noah's small voice broke through, wavering and confused. Elena. He reached toward where her voice had come from, his fingers grasping at nothing. His face crumpled, that specific kind of panic that only comes from losing your bearings when you can't see to find them again. Elena knelt immediately, but didn't touch him yet. I'm here, Noah. Right here. Most people think this is where the maid explains herself, Adrian thought bitterly, watching his son's distress. But all he could see was his boy, frightened and vulnerable, because someone thought they knew better than a father's protective instinct. Noah's hands found Elena's arm, and he gripped it tightly, his breathing still uneven. Adrian's chest ached. He'd protected his son. He'd stopped something dangerous. So why did Noah look more afraid now than he had moments before? Noah reached toward Elena's voice again, panicked, and Adrian realized with cold certainty. His son wasn't seeking protection from the pot. He was seeking protection from him. The new rules were implemented within hours. Adrian sat in his study that evening, reviewing the revised care protocol with Elena. Mark stood by the door, a silent witness to the restructuring of Noah's world. Constant supervision, Adrian said, sliding the printed document across his desk. No more experimental methods. No pots, no wandering, no unsupervised movement. If he needs to go somewhere, you guide him, hand to hand. Elena's eyes scanned the page, her expression unreadable. Mr. Montreux, I'm protecting him. From danger, or from learning? The question cut through the air like a blade. Adrian's hand stiffened on the desk. Excuse me. Elena looked up, meeting his gaze directly. You saw him navigate the hallway alone. You saw him discover sound mapping. And it scared you, not because he was unsafe, but because he didn't need you to do it. How dare you? I'm not here to argue, Mr. Montreux. I'll follow your rules. She stood, leaving the protocol on the desk. But you should know what you're taking from him. She left before Adrian could respond. This is where people usually side with fear, he told himself, jaw clenched. And he was certain he'd made the right choice. Certain that structure and control were what Noah needed. But over the following days, something changed. Noah stopped exploring, stopped asking questions. His laughter, rare but radiant when it came, disappeared entirely. He sat where he was placed, hands folded in his lap, waiting to be moved like furniture. Elena followed the protocol exactly. Hand-to-hand guidance, constant supervision, no independence, and Noah withered. 2 weeks later, Dr. Patel arrived for Noah's quarterly developmental assessment. Adrian watched through the study doorway as the pediatrician observed Noah's responses, or lack thereof. Mr. Montreux, Dr. Patel said afterward, her tone careful. I'm noting significant regression in spatial awareness and confidence. Has something changed in his routine? Adrian's stomach dropped. The doctors were noting regression, and he had no one to blame but himself. Dr. Renaud arrived 3 days later, a specialist in childhood blindness and developmental adaptation. Adrian had requested the consultation himself, though he wasn't sure what he was hoping to hear. They sat in the sunroom, while Noah worked with Elena in the garden, strictly supervised per Adrian's rules. Mr. Montreux, I've reviewed Noah's history, Dr. Renaud began, flipping through his tablet. I want to clarify something foundational first. Adrian nodded stiffly. He didn't lose his sight. He was born without it. The words settled in the room, a truth Adrian knew but rarely spoke aloud. Born blind, no memory of light. No reference point for what others called vision. Dr. Renaud continued, his voice gentle but direct. Children born blind don't mourn what they never had, but they do need to build their own framework for understanding space, distance, movement. He paused, looking out at Noah. Sound is how he understands space. Touch is how he confirms it. Movement is how he claims it. Adrian's throat tightened. I know that. Do you? Dr. Renaud turned the tablet toward him. Because according to these notes, you recently prohibited echolocation practice, independent navigation, and sensory exploration. I prohibited unsafe behavior. You prohibited adaptation. The words hit like a physical blow. Adrian opened his mouth to argue, but Dr. Renaud raised a hand. I'm not judging you, Mr. Montreux. I'm clarifying what your son actually needs. And right now, someone in this house understands that better than you do. Adrian's gaze drifted to the window. Elena knelt beside Noah in the garden, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder as he felt the texture of leaves. She wasn't hovering, wasn't controlling. She was present, patient, attuned. If you leave now, you'll miss who actually understood him first, Dr. Renaud said quietly. Adrian stood abruptly. Thank you, doctor. I'll consider your recommendations. After Dr. Renaud left, Adrian returned to the surveillance room. Mark glanced up, surprised to see him. Pull up the footage from 3 weeks ago, Adrian said. The day in the kitchen, and the hallway, all of it. Mark complied silently. Adrian watched the CCTV again, this time without judgment. And for the first time, he saw what Elena had been doing all along. Not endangering his son, teaching him to live. Adrian found Elena in the library the next morning. She was organizing Noah's tactile books on the lower shelves, her movements methodical and quiet. Elena. She paused, but didn't turn around immediately. When she did, her expression was neutral, professionally polite, nothing more. Mr. Montreux. He'd rehearsed this. Spent half the night choosing words that wouldn't sound like excuses. But standing here now, watching her guarded posture, every prepared phrase felt hollow. I owe you an apology. Elena waited, didn't nod, didn't reassure him that it was okay. Just waited. Adrian exhaled slowly. I thought watching meant caring. I thought if I could see everything, every corner, every moment, I could keep him safe from anything that might hurt him. His voice cracked slightly. I thought control was protection. And now, Elena's tone wasn't cold, but it wasn't warm either. Now I realized I was protecting him from the wrong things. Adrian stepped closer, his hands open at his sides. You were teaching him. I see that now. The hallway, the pot, the way you gave him space. You were giving him tools I didn't even know he needed. Elena's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Watching isn't the same as knowing, Mr. Montreux. The words landed with quiet precision. You watched your son for 3 months through cameras. I spent 3 months on the floor with him, listening to his breath change when he's frustrated, learning which textures calm him, discovering that he counts his steps in even numbers because odd numbers feel unfinished to him. She paused. You were watching. I was knowing. Adrian felt the weight of it, the distance between observation and understanding. You're right. I usually am. About Noah, at least. Silence stretched between them. Not hostile, but not reconciled either. This is the part most people don't stay for, Adrian thought bitterly. The part where saying sorry doesn't automatically restore what was broken, where the person you wronged doesn't have to forgive you just because you finally understand. Elena returned to organizing the books, her movements deliberate. Adrian thought she might dismiss him entirely. Then she stopped, turned. Mr. Montreux. Yes, I need you to do something. Not for me, for Noah. Anything. Elena's eyes met his, steady and unflinching. Let him lead. Once. Just once. Let him move through a space without your fear telling him he can't. Adrian's chest tightened. Every instinct screamed against it. But he'd seen the footage. Seen the regression reports. Seen his son's withdrawn silence. When? He asked quietly. Tomorrow. The East drawing room. You, me, and Noah. No cameras. No interruptions. She held his gaze. And no rescuing him unless he asks. Adrian swallowed hard. And if he falls? Then he learns what falling feels like. And that he can get back up. Elena asked Adrian to let Noah lead once. And Adrian, terrified, humbled, and finally willing to trust, nodded. The East drawing room felt larger than usual. Or perhaps it was just Adrian's anxiety expanding to fill the space. Noah stood at the entrance, Elena's hand resting lightly on his shoulder. Adrian positioned himself near the far window, hands clasped behind his back to keep from reaching out. Ready, Noah? Elena asked softly. The boy nodded, his small face serious with concentration. Elena removed her hand. The room is yours. Find the center. Noah took a breath. Then he lifted his right hand and knocked his knuckles against the doorframe. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound bounced off the high ceiling, the hardwood floors, the plastered walls. He tilted his head, listening. Adrian's jaw clenched. Every muscle in his body coiled with the need to move forward, to guide, to prevent whatever disaster his mind was already imagining. Let him find a room, Elena whispered, her eyes on Noah, but her words clearly meant for Adrian. I will, Adrian breathed, though his heart hammered against his ribs. Noah stepped forward, not hesitantly, purposefully. His feet found the floor with deliberate placement. Each step measured. He clapped once, sharply. The echo returned, and his head swiveled slightly left. A chair. Adrian could see it from where he stood, an upholstered armchair, directly in Noah's path. Noah clapped again, adjusted his angle, moved 3 steps to the right. He'd heard it, mapped it, avoided it. Adrian's breath caught. Noah continued forward, his hands occasionally tapping the air in front of him, not searching blindly, but confirming what his ears had already told him. He paused in what Adrian estimated was nearly the center of the room. Then Noah tapped his foot against the floor. The sound was different here, fuller, more resonant. He was standing on the Persian rug, its thick weave absorbing and reflecting sound differently than the bare wood. Walking away here means missing the only real choice, Adrian thought, his eyes burning. The choice to believe in his son, to believe that love wasn't measured in cameras and restrictions, but in space to grow and the faith to let go. Noah turned slightly, orienting himself toward where he knew his father stood. He couldn't see Adrian, would never see Adrian. But Noah smiled, not because he sees, but because he knows where he is. That smile broke something open in Adrian's chest. "I'm here, Noah," Adrian said, his voice rough with emotion. "Right where you thought I was." Noah's smile widened. "I know, Papa. I can hear you breathing." And in that moment, Adrian finally understood. His son had never been lost. He'd only been waiting for permission to be found. 3 months later, the surveillance room looked different. Half the monitors were dark now. Screens that once tracked Noah's every movement reduced to black reflections of the room itself. Adrian stood at the threshold, Mark beside him, with a tablet, displaying the revised security protocol. "You're sure about this, sir?" Mark asked, his tone careful. Adrian nodded, his gaze lingering on the remaining cameras, the front gate, perimeter, the entry points. Security that made sense, not surveillance that suffocated. "I confused control with love," Adrian said quietly. "I thought if I could see everything, I could prevent everything. But all I did was teach my son that I didn't believe in him." Mark shifted uncomfortably. "You were protecting him." "I was protecting myself." Adrian turned away from the monitors, from the fear of losing him, from the guilt of not being able to fix what can't be fixed, from accepting that he doesn't need fixing at all. In the garden below, visible through the study window, Noah moved along the stone pathway. Elena walked beside him, not holding his hand, not hovering, just present. Noah's white cane swept in controlled arcs, his steps confident and measured. He was laughing at something Elena had said, his face tilted toward the sun. "It happens when fear leads," Elena had told Adrian last week, when he'd finally dismantled most of the camera system. "Fear makes you hold tighter when you should be letting go. Makes you watch when you should be trusting." She'd said it without judgment, the way she said most things now, direct, honest, but without the edge that had existed between them before. Their relationship had changed. Adrian no longer saw her as staff to be managed. Elena was respected now, truly respected. Her methods weren't questioned. Her insights weren't dismissed. When she spoke about Noah's needs, Adrian listened. And Noah was flourishing. He'd started violin lessons, learned to navigate the entire ground floor independently, made a friend at the specialist school Elena had researched, a girl named Maya who taught him how to count steps and rhythm. Adrian watched his son now, moving through the world with a freedom that would have terrified him 6 months ago. "Protection without understanding can become another kind of harm," he whispered to himself, the truth of it settling deep in his bones. He'd built cameras to keep Noah safe. But what Noah had needed wasn't surveillance, it was space. Room to stumble, permission to discover, the dignity of learning that falling wasn't the same as failing. Elena had known that from the beginning. Adrian had needed his fear shattered first. Most people don't stay long enough to realize that, he thought, watching Noah kneel to touch the lavender bushes, his fingers gentle as he explored their texture. Most people walk away before the real lesson lands, before they understand that sometimes the greatest act of love is stepping back. Noah called out something Adrian couldn't quite hear. Elena responded, and Noah laughed again, full-bodied, joyful, free. Adrian closed the surveillance room door behind him. For the first time in Noah's 7 years of life, he didn't need to watch his son on a screen to know he was okay. He just knew, and that was enough.